Greetings. I am Marcus Aurelius, once emperor of Rome, always a student of philosophy. This is Meditations, Book 3, a continuation of my private reflections, written not to impress others, but to steady myself, to remind myself how to live. These notes were never meant for the public. They were a guide for me, composed in stolen moments while on campaign, surrounded by the chaos of war and the burdens of rule. They are reminders to remain just, disciplined, and in harmony with the nature of things. Book 3 begins with a call to clarity, to recognize what is truly within our power, and to let go of what is not. Here, I speak often of the soul's integrity, how to keep the spirit uncorrupted in a world full of temptations, distractions, and vanities. I return to core Stoic principles, to live according to nature, to accept fate without complaint, and to act always with justice and reason. Throughout this book, you'll hear me reflect on the fleeting nature of life, the urgency of the present moment, and the importance of aligning one's thoughts and actions with the highest good. I wrote these words to confront my own failings, but perhaps they can serve you too, as reminders to live not aimlessly but deliberately, not in pursuit of applause, but in pursuit of virtue. This edition is based on the Gregory Hays translation, which renders my Latin into modern language with clarity and precision. After each section, a brief explanation follows, to help guide your understanding of what I intended and what might still apply to your own life. Let us begin. And may you live each day as if your time were short, because it is. Meditations 3.1. Not just that every day more of our life is used up and less of it is left, but this too. If we live longer, can we be sure our mind will still be up to understanding the world, to the contemplation that aims at divine and human knowledge? If our mind starts to wander, we'll still go on breathing, go on eating, imagining things, feeling urges, and so on. But getting the most out of ourselves, calculating where our duty lies, analyzing what we hear and see, deciding whether it's time to call it quits. All the things you need a healthy mind for, all those are gone. So we need to hurry. Not just because we move daily closer to death, but also because our understanding, our grasp of the world, may be gone before we get there. In Meditations 3.1, Marcus Aurelius reflects on the fleeting nature of both life and the clarity of mind that gives life its meaning. He reminds us that with every passing day, life itself diminishes, an obvious truth. But more urgently, he cautions that even if one lives a long life, there is no certainty the mind will remain sharp. For Marcus, what defines a truly lived life is not merely breathing, eating, or reacting to the world, but the ability to contemplate, to reason, to understand divine and human matters alike. He warns that when the mind begins to falter, though the body may persist, our highest faculties, discernment, moral clarity, and the ability to fulfill our duties, may no longer be within our reach. Without these, the soul becomes passive, no longer steering its course. And so, he urges haste, not out of fear of death alone, but out of reverence for reason itself, because the end may come not when we draw our last breath, but when we can no longer live wisely. That is why, Marcus says, we must act now, while the mind still serves us, before it, too, is taken by time. Meditations 3.2. We should remember that even nature's inadvertence has its own charm, its own attractiveness. The way loaves of bread split open on top in the oven. The ridges are just byproducts of the baking, and yet pleasing somehow. They rouse our appetite without our knowing why. Or how ripe figs begin to burst, and olives on the point of falling. The shadow of decay gives them a peculiar beauty. Stalks of wheat bending under their own weight, the furrowed brow of the lion, flecks of foam on the boar's mouth, and other things. If you look at them in isolation, there's nothing beautiful about them, and yet by supplementing nature they enrich it, and draw us in. And anyone with a feeling for nature, a deeper sensitivity, will find it all gives pleasure. Even what seems inadvertent. He'll find the jaws of live animals as beautiful as painted ones or sculptures. He'll look calmly at the distinct beauty of old age in men, women, and at the loveliness of children. And other things like that will call out to him constantly, things unnoticed by others, things seen only by those at home with nature and its works. In Meditations 3.2, Marcus Aurelius observed the world not just through the eyes of an emperor, but through the discerning lens of a philosopher. He reflected on how even the unintended byproducts of nature hold a quiet, unexpected beauty. Marcus spoke of loaves of bread, split open by the oven's heat, not by design, but by the baking itself. The ridges, he noted, evoke hunger, not because they were crafted to, but simply because they are real. He described ripe figs bursting, olives softening and about to fall, and stalks of wheat bowing under their own ripeness, each touched by the natural arc of aging and decay. To many these might seem like flaws, but Marcus saw in them a deeper charm, a quiet perfection in imperfection. He found the furrowed brow of the lion, or the foam on a boar's mouth, to be just as stirring as any sculpture, not because they were ideal, but because they were authentic. He believed that only those attuned to nature's rhythm could see this beauty. A weathered face, the innocence of children, the jaws of wild animals. These were not to be compared to painted images or idealized forms. They were real, and in that realness lay something far more profound. For Marcus, to love nature was to accept it fully, not just in its grandeur, but also in its weathered edges, its transitions, its decay. Because to a Stoic, beauty is never superficial. It is truth, seen clearly and embraced without judgment. Meditations 3.3. Hippocrates cured many illnesses, and then fell ill and died. The Chaldeans predicted the deaths of many others. In due course their own hour arrived. Alexander, Pompey, Caesar, who utterly destroyed so many cities, cut down so many thousand foot and horse in battle, they too departed this life. Heraclitus often told us the world would end in fire, but it was moisture that carried him off. He died smeared with cow shit. Democritus was killed by ordinary vermin, Socrates by the humankind. And you boarded, you set sail, you've made the passage, time to disembark. If it's for another life, well, there's nowhere without gods on that side either. If to nothingness, then you no longer have to put up with pain and pleasure, or go on dancing attendance on this battered crate, your body, so much inferior to that which serves it. One is mind and spirit, the other earth and garbage. In Meditations 3.3, Marcus Aurelius considered the fate of even the most revered minds and conquerors in history, not with fear, but with clarity. He reminded himself that Hippocrates, the great physician who healed so many, could not escape illness or death. The Chaldeans, who read the stars and predicted the fate of others, eventually met their own. Alexander the Great, Pompey, and Julius Caesar, men who razed cities, reshaped empires, and commanded thousands, each came to the same end. Their power could not outmatch mortality. Even the philosophers were not spared absurdity and death. Heraclitus, who taught that the world would end in fire, died smeared with filth. Democritus was overcome by vermin. Socrates, Marcus noted with solemnity, was executed by men, his own kind. And what lesson did Marcus draw? That we are all passengers. We board the ship of life, we cross the waters, and then, when the journey ends, we disembark. Whether we land on another shore or dissolve into nothingness, we need not fear. If another life awaits, the gods are surely there too. If there is nothing, then we are finally free. From pain, from pleasure, from the demands of a body that ages and decays. For Marcus, the body was merely the vessel, earth, and refuse. The soul, the mind, the reasoning part within, that was what deserved his reverence. That was the only thing worth protecting and cultivating while the voyage lasted. Meditations 3.4. Don't waste the rest of your time here worrying about other people, unless it affects the common good. It will keep you from doing anything useful. You'll be too preoccupied with what so-and-so is doing, and why, and what they're saying, and what they're thinking, and what they're up to, and all the other things that throw you off and keep you from focusing on your own mind. You need to avoid certain things in your train of thought. Everything random, everything irrelevant, and certainly everything self-important or malicious. You need to get used to winnowing your thoughts, so that if someone says, "What are you thinking about?" you can respond at once, and truthfully, that you are thinking this or thinking that. And it would be obvious at once from your answer that your thoughts were straightforward and considerate ones, the thoughts of an unselfish person, one unconcerned with pleasure and with sensual indulgence generally, with squabbling, with slander and envy, or anything else you'd be ashamed to be caught thinking. Someone like that, someone who refuses to put off joining the elect, is a kind of priest, a servant of the gods in touch with what is within him and what keeps a person undefiled by pleasures, invulnerable to any pain, untouched by arrogance, unaffected by meanness, an athlete in the greatest of all contests, the struggle not to be overwhelmed by anything that happens. With what leaves us dyed indelibly by justice, welcoming wholeheartedly whatever comes, whatever we're assigned, not worrying too often, or with any selfish motive, about what other people say, or do, or think. He does only what is his to do, and considers constantly what the world has in store for him, doing his best, and trusting that all is for the best. For we carry our fate with us, and it carries us. He keeps in mind that all rational things are related, and that to care for all human beings is part of being human. Which doesn't mean we have to share their opinions. We should listen only to those whose lives conform to nature. And the others? He bears in mind what sort of people they are, both at home and abroad, by night as well as day, and who they spend their time with. And he cares nothing for their praise, men who can't even meet their own standards. In Meditations 3.4, Marcus Aurelius warns against wasting time on the thoughts and actions of others. Focus instead on your own mind, free of envy, indulgence, or distraction. Meditations 3.5. How to act. Never under compulsion, out of selfishness, without forethought, with misgivings. Don't gussy up your thoughts. No surplus words or unnecessary actions. Let the spirit in you represent a man, an adult, a citizen, a Roman, a ruler, taking up his post like a soldier and patiently awaiting his recall from life, needing no oath or witness. Cheerfulness, without requiring other people's help, or serenity supplied by others. To stand up straight, not straightened. In Meditations 3.5, Marcus Aurelius reflects on the posture of the soul and the discipline of action. He speaks not as an emperor seeking grandeur, but as a Stoic reminding himself and us how to live rightly. He urges that every action be undertaken freely, never out of compulsion or selfishness. Let there be no hesitation, no inner conflict. Do nothing without intention. Say only what is needed. Do only what is essential. Strip away excess, in thought, in word, in deed. The spirit, Marcus says, must stand as a man, a citizen of Rome, and a servant of reason. Like a soldier faithfully holding his post, content to wait for his call to leave, he requires no applause, no oaths, no validation. His standard is cheerfulness, not one borrowed from others but drawn from within. His serenity is self-made, and above all, he stands upright, not because someone props him up, but because his soul is aligned with nature and truth. This is how Marcus lived. This is how he believed we all should strive to be: disciplined, deliberate, and inwardly free. Meditations 3.6. If at some point in your life you should come across anything better than justice, honesty, self-control, courage, then a mind satisfied that it has succeeded in enabling you to act rationally and satisfied to accept what's beyond its control. If you find anything better than that, embrace it without reservations. It must be an extraordinary thing indeed, and enjoy it to the full. But if nothing presents itself that's superior to the spirit that lives within, the one that has subordinated individual desires to itself, that discriminates among impressions, that has broken free of physical temptations, as Socrates used to say, and subordinated itself to the gods, and looks out for human beings' welfare, if you find that there's nothing more important or valuable than that, then don't make room for anything but it, for anything that might lead you astray, tempt you off the road, and leave you unable to devote yourself completely to achieving the goodness that is uniquely yours. It would be wrong for anything to stand between you and attaining goodness, as a rational being and a citizen. Anything at all. The applause of the crowd, high office, wealth, or self-indulgence. All of them might seem to be compatible with it, for a while. But suddenly they control us and sweep us away. So make your choice straightforwardly, once and for all, and stick to it. Choose what's best. Best is what benefits me. As a rational being, then follow through. Or just as an animal, then say so and stand your ground without making a show of it. Just make sure you've done your homework first. In Meditations 3.6, Marcus Aurelius challenges us to search our lives. If there's anything better than wisdom, justice, courage, and self-control, anything better than a mind aligned with reason and nature, then embrace it fully. But Marcus found nothing greater than the rational soul, one that resists desire, judges clearly, accepts fate, and serves others. If that is the highest good, then let nothing distract you, not praise, power, or pleasure. Choose what truly benefits you, not as an animal chasing comfort, but as a rational being pursuing virtue. And once you choose, commit to it fully. Meditations 3.7. Never regard something as doing you good if it makes you betray a trust or lose your sense of shame, or makes you show hatred, suspicion, ill will, or hypocrisy, or a desire for things best done behind closed doors. If you can privilege your own mind, your guiding spirit, and your reverence for its powers, that should keep you clear of dramatics, of wailing and gnashing of teeth. You won't need solitude, or a cast of thousands either. Above all, you'll be free of fear and desire. And how long your body will contain the soul that inhabits it will cause you not a moment's worry. If it's time for you to go, leave willingly, as you would to accomplish anything that can be done with grace and honor. And concentrate on this your whole life long, for your mind to be in the right state, the state a rational, civic mind should be in. In Meditations 3.7, Marcus Aurelius urges the reader to reflect deeply on the nature of true good. He reminds us, never call something good if it comes at the cost of your integrity, if it requires betrayal, shame, deception, hatred, or hidden desires. For Marcus, the highest good is not found in outward rewards, but in maintaining the clarity and dignity of the inner mind. He believed that a soul in harmony with itself has no need for theatrics, no need for applause or isolation. Such a person is content within, free from fear and untouched by longing. He reminds us that we need not fear death or cling to life. When the time comes to depart, we should do so as we would complete any noble task, gracefully and without complaint. Above all, Marcus asks us to commit to this, to keep our minds disciplined, rational, and aligned with the greater good, always. Meditations 3.8. The mind of one set straight and purified, no pus, no dirt, no scabs, and not a life cut short by death, like an actor who stops before the play is done, the plot wound up. Neither servility nor arrogance, neither cringing nor disdain, neither excuses nor evasions. In Meditations 3.8, Marcus Aurelius reflected on the ideal state of the mind, clear, composed, and uncorrupted. A mind truly set straight, he wrote, is like a clean vessel, free of rot, free of infection, and unmarked by the scabs of corruption or indulgence. It needs no cleansing, because it remains pure. Marcus reminded himself that life should not end like a play cut short, unfinished, unfulfilled. A well-lived life, like a well-acted performance, should see its arc completed with dignity and intention. He warned against extremes of character, not to sink into servility, nor to rise into arrogance, not to cringe before others nor look down upon them, to live without excuses, without the need for evasions. This, to Marcus, was the hallmark of integrity. To live with honesty and composure, no matter the audience, no matter the hour. Meditations 3.9. Your ability to control your thoughts, treat it with respect. It's all that protects your mind from false perceptions, false to your nature and that of all rational beings. It's what makes thoughtfulness possible, and affection for other people, and submission to the divine. In Meditations 3.9, Marcus Aurelius reflects on the quiet power of the rational mind. He reminds us that our ability to govern our thoughts is not just a skill, it is a sacred trust. This inner control, he says, is the only safeguard against false impressions, ideas that distort our understanding of reality, that draw us away from our true nature and the universal reason that binds all beings. It is through this clarity of thought that we become capable of real discernment. It's what enables compassion, because only a clear mind can truly care for others. And it is what allows us to submit, willingly and wisely, to the order of the cosmos, to the divine. To Marcus, the disciplined mind is the foundation of a virtuous life. Without it, we're lost in illusion. With it, we live in harmony, with others, with nature, and with ourselves. Meditations 3.10. Forget everything else. Keep hold of this alone and remember it. Each of us lives only now, this brief instant. The rest has been lived already, or is impossible to see. The span we live is small as the corner of the earth in which we live it, small as even the greatest renown, passed from mouth to mouth by short-lived stick figures, ignorant alike of themselves and those long dead. In Meditations 3.10, Marcus Aurelius turned his attention to a single, powerful truth, the present moment. He urged himself to let go of all distractions, all illusions, and hold tightly to this alone, that each of us lives only in the now, this fleeting, irretrievable instant. Everything else, the past, is already gone. The future lies beyond sight, unknowable. Our time on this earth is not only brief, but the space we occupy is also minuscule, a mere corner of the world. Even the greatest fame, he observed, is fragile, passed along by those as ephemeral as shadows. They are unaware of themselves and no less ignorant of those who came before. For Marcus, the lesson was clear. Do not waste what little time you have chasing empty things. What matters is how you live this moment, with clarity, humility, and purpose. Meditations 3.11. To the standbys above, add this one. Always to define whatever it is we perceive, to trace its outline, so we can see what it really is. Its substance, stripped bare, as a whole, unmodified, and to call it by its name, the thing itself and its components to which it will eventually return. Nothing is so conducive to spiritual growth as this capacity for logical and accurate analysis of everything that happens to us. To look at it in such a way that we understand what need it fulfills and in what kind of world, and its value to that world as a whole and to man in particular, as a citizen of that higher city, of which all other cities are mere households. What is it, this thing that now forces itself on my notice? What is it made up of? How long was it designed to last? And what qualities do I need to bring to bear on it? Tranquility, courage, honesty, trustworthiness, straightforwardness, independence, or what? So in each case you need to say, this is due to God, or this is due to the interweavings and intertwinings of fate, to coincidence or chance. Or, this is due to a human being, someone of the same race, the same birth, the same society, but who doesn't know what nature requires of him. But I do. And so I'll treat them as the law that binds us, the law of nature requires, with kindness and with justice. And in inconsequential things, I'll do my best to treat them as they deserve. In Meditations 3.11, Marcus Aurelius reminds himself of the power of clear perception. He urges that everything we encounter, each thought, person, or event, should be stripped to its essence and called by its true name. This habit, he believed, nurtures spiritual clarity. By asking, what is this made of? How long will it last? What virtues do I need here? Patience, courage, honesty? He could respond with calm and purpose. Whether the cause is divine, chance, or another human being, Marcus resolved to meet it with justice and kindness. Even the smallest moments deserve our full attention and best effort. True wisdom for Marcus begins with seeing things as they are and acting accordingly. Meditations 3.12. If you do the job in a principled way with diligence, energy, and patience, if you keep yourself free of distractions and keep the spirit inside you undamaged, as if you might have to give it back at any moment. If you can embrace this without fear or expectation, can find fulfillment in what you're doing now as nature intended, and in superhuman truthfulness, every word, every utterance, then your life will be happy. No one can prevent that. In Meditations 3.12, Marcus Aurelius reminds himself what a good life truly requires. If a person does their work with integrity, with diligence, energy, and patience, if they remain focused, undistracted, and guard their inner spirit as if they might return it to nature at any moment, then they are living rightly. If they can meet the present moment without fear or longing, finding purpose in the task at hand, as nature intended, and speak only what is absolutely true, free from pretense, then that life is complete. Happiness, Marcus says, comes not from chance or fortune, but from the courage to live honestly and with full attention. And no one, not the world, not fate, not even other people can take that from you. Meditations 3.13. Doctors keep their scalpels and other instruments handy for emergencies. Keep your philosophy ready too, ready to understand heaven and earth. In everything you do, even the smallest thing, remember the chain that links them. Nothing earthly succeeds by ignoring heaven, nothing heavenly by ignoring the earth. In Meditations 3.13, Marcus Aurelius speaks not as a ruler, but as a practicing philosopher, a man who understands that wisdom must be ready at a moment's notice. He reminds us, just as a physician keeps tools within reach for emergencies, so too must we keep our philosophy close, not stored away in books or reserved for quiet hours of reflection, but ready, active, alive. For Marcus, true philosophy means understanding the connection between heaven and earth. It means remembering that every action, no matter how small, is part of a greater whole. To act well in this world, we must acknowledge both what is above us and what is within our reach. Nothing on earth thrives by forgetting the divine, and nothing in heaven is fulfilled without the integrity of earthly action. For the Stoic, then, readiness is not just about preparation, it's about alignment, with reason, with nature, with the eternal order that binds all things. Meditations 3.14. Stop drifting. You're not going to reread your brief comments, your deeds of the ancient Greeks and Romans, the commonplace books you saved for your old age. Sprint for the finish. Write off your hopes, and if your well-being matters to you, be your own savior while you can. In Meditations 3.14, Marcus Aurelius reflects with urgency and clarity. He reminds himself, and us, that there is no time left for drifting. He admonishes the habit of delaying action, of stockpiling knowledge for someday, as if life will wait. The philosophical notes, the histories of noble deeds, the quotes saved for old age, none of these will save us if we do not act now. Marcus calls on the soul to sprint for the finish, not with panic but with resolve, not to be remembered but to live rightly. He urges, write off your hopes for what might be. The future is uncertain. What remains within your power, what always has, is the present moment. And in that moment you can act. You can be your own savior. But only if you begin now. Meditations 3.15. They don't realize how much is included in stealing, sowing, buying, resting, seeing to business, not with the eyes but another kind of sight. In Meditations 3.15, Marcus Aurelius reflected on the unseen depth of ordinary human actions. He observed that most people fail to realize how much is truly involved in simple acts: stealing, planting, buying, resting, or going about their business. These aren't just surface activities, he reminded himself. They are rich with moral, philosophical, and civic weight. What appears simple on the outside often conceals profound consequences for character and society. Marcus spoke not of perceiving with mere eyes, but of a deeper kind of vision, a sight of the soul. It's this inner awareness, this trained perception of right and wrong, that gives meaning to even the smallest of choices. For a Stoic, no task is insignificant, and no decision is neutral. Every act is a thread in the fabric of a virtuous or corrupted life, and to see that clearly is to live wisely. Meditations 3.16. Body, soul, mind, sensations, the body, desires, the soul, reasoning, the mind. To experience sensations, even grazing beasts do that. To let your desires control you, even wild animals do that, and rutting humans and tyrants, from Phalaris to Nero. To make your mind your guide to what seems best, even people who deny the gods do that. Even people who betray their country. Even people who do shameful deeds behind closed doors. If all the rest is common coin, then what is unique to the good man? To welcome with affection what is sent by fate. Not to stain or disturb the spirit within him with a mess of false beliefs. Instead, to preserve it faithfully, by calmly obeying God, saying nothing untrue, doing nothing unjust. And if the others don't acknowledge it, this life lived with simplicity, humility, cheerfulness, he doesn't resent them for it, and isn't deterred from following the road where it leads, to the end of life, an end to be approached in purity, in serenity, in acceptance, in peaceful unity with what must be. In Meditations 3.16, Marcus Aurelius reflects on the nature of our being, body, soul, and mind. He observed, the body is what feels sensation, the soul is what desires, and the mind, the highest part of us, is what reasons and chooses. But Marcus cautioned, merely sensing things puts us no higher than grazing animals. To be driven by desire, that aligns us with wild beasts, tyrants, and those enslaved to appetite and impulse. And even the power of reason, if misused, is not virtuous by itself. Criminals reason. So do the corrupt and the impious. Reason alone does not make a good man. What then is unique to a good man? It is this: to accept what fate sends with grace, to preserve the soul from falsehood and disorder, to speak truthfully, to act justly, and to do so with simplicity, humility, and cheerfulness, even if no one notices. He does not complain. He is not swayed. He continues along the path of nature, walking calmly toward life's end, pure at peace and in harmony with the order of things.